So first
Yeah.
question,
Okay.
you can take your time to answer. As a
Yeah,
marketer
sure.
and advertiser, how promising would you say 2021 looks, at least for the industry that you're going to be operating in?
Okay, so I am moving from an agency to a BFSI vertical, and I will be handling the insurance part of it. So, looking at the current situation that we are in, I am hoping that a lot of people will take insurance seriously. So, yes, the industry that I am going to be part of is looking promising, and people will start investing for their future in terms of life insurances or whatever kind of health insurances and safeties that are required, looking at how we are, what kind of an environment we are in right now. So
Okay.
yes, 2021 looks much better than what it was until maybe 19, but even 20 had improved. But yeah, it looks.
So, with the ever evolving technology landscape, would you say that it's become easier to reach out to the right set of audiences?
Yes and no. So yes, because the younger audiences that we want to reach out to for certain brands, yes, they are very technologically savvy and they would rather be reached out online than offline. But as you grow older and if your product needs to reach out to say a certain age group and beyond, say the 45 plus and all of those, while they are trying to be as tech savvy as they can, they still don't have trust in anything that they see online. So I feel that, people in that age group still believe what they can touch and feel or, is offline rather than what is online. But yeah, technology is getting there. So in most cases, yes, it is helping us. But the clients or the brands are still TV first when it comes to India as a market. They still feel that unless and until they're not on TV, and if they've not exhausted their TV budgets or they've not advertised too much there, online is not going to help them. So for them, digital still is an ancillary medium or it's a
Medium.
secondary medium.
Sure.
So
Okay.
even if my TG is there or if my audience is there, my brand is not completely willing to be digital first.
Got it.
So
Got it.
yeah, that's a challenge that is still there.
So, in your opinion, what are the top three platforms that every marketer, at least digitally, should absolutely consider being present on?
So, being a little old school, I still think social search and currently video and OTT platforms are where we must absolutely be there. Search, obviously, because it's intent. So, if somebody is looking for something, it makes more than sense that you should be there so that the user thinks that this brand is answering what I'm looking for. And of course, seeing that we are not going anywhere and we are just stuck at home, so we are scrolling a lot on Facebook, Instagram, and other social media platforms. So might as well be there where the audience is.
If I were to put you in a spot, now I know that you're good with a lot of publishers, but if you were to name specifically the top three, in your opinion, what would they be?
Okay,
So
so
let's put it this way. Okay, so social. Okay, so I don't think there's a dispute when you say Facebook or the Facebook
yeah,
family of apps, right?
yes, yes,
Search again, there's no contention. Like Google is
right.
probably 99% of all search.
Mhm.
But in the other 85% or 90%, of the publishers, who would you say are the top three right now? Who's doing good?
So from an OTT perspective, I think Hotstar still takes the biggest chunk
Chunk.
because
Okay.
of their presence
Mm-hmm.
and because they have the IPL in it. Even though when it is not there, people still think Hotstar is something that they will prefer because the soaps are still running there. So from an OTT perspective, yes, I would prefer Hotstar.
Okay.
From a news consumption pattern, there are so many news platforms, but not all of us have all these platforms or whatever. So aggregators, again, maybe an InShots or a Daily Hunt, depending on who I want to reach out to.
Okay.
So I would prefer a news aggregator over individual publishers.
Got it.
So either a news, an InShots or a Daily Hunt.
So that's good. Now, moving on to the next question, and that's been on the top of everybody's mind. Okay, these are testing times.
Right.
COVID has pretty much changed the way that we look at a lot of things. Now, in what way did it change your life, and how was the business? And I mean, obviously now we're in a transitionary phase, but how did it impact business at wherever you were before this?
Yeah. So wherever I was before, it was an agency. So unfortunately, my clients, most of them were TV first. So they
Okay.
were very TV heavy pre-COVID times. But when COVID hit, they realized that TV is not helping. So
Mhm.
suddenly everybody switched to digital. So they realized the power of being online and reaching out to TG when they are there.
Okay.
So business was good. In fact, it was too good at that time because everybody wanted to explore platforms on digital. Yeah, it was overwhelming because brands that you would never expect to sell or be present online were exploring those platforms.
Can you tell us of instances where you had to sort of tell the brand to tweak their marketing strategy during the initial outbreak of the pandemic? Any tweaks in communication that you think stood out?
So most of them weren't advertising, but one of the key brands that I had was a QSR brand,
Okay,
and the food category was very heavily impacted because people stopped going out and
sure.
everything was shut. But when things started opening up, say June, July,
Mhm.
mid-year last year, safety was one of the primary concerns.
Okay,
So people were still very skeptical about ordering from outside or dining out or anything that had no home related stuff to it. So safety was our primary communication throughout.
okay,
No offers or anything helped as much as what a safety communication did. So yes, we had to tweak that.
okay,
Also targeting from a digital perspective, because not all stores were open or you didn't want to just blow your money anywhere and everywhere. A lot of hyper local targeting like campaigns were set up, and we were reaching out to small but quality kind of people is what the strategy was.
So, on that note, what is your opinion about working from home? And so I'll just break that question down. What would you say that are the three biggest challenges of working from home
Uh-huh.
as a brand marketer? And I'm sure there would be a few perks as well, right? So you can tell me more.
Okay, so personally, I hate it. I just don't like the idea of working from home because home is not where you work. But yeah, so the three major challenges were primarily discipline, because suddenly people lost track of routine. So there's no waking up at a certain time and doing certain things and then shutting down. So there was no end time to anything. So we were always available, constantly on calls. So there was no boundary or routine. So that is one of the primary things. Secondly, again, the option of being available at all times. So weekends didn't matter, weekdays didn't matter. It was all the same. And again, people lost, I don't know, but yeah, there was no courtesy maybe, to say no to things. We thought because we're at home, we might as well do the work. And the clients or the brands thought because they're at home, they might as well work for me. So, expectation setting and all of those were a bit challenging.
Did it fundamentally change the way that you work in any particular instance?
Kind of, yes, because earlier we had deadlines to chase, and we used to have certain timelines that we had put in. Ki I have to finish this task by this, but it just didn't work for me that way, because for me it was like, "Arey, I can do it." End of day didn't mean 6 p.m. anymore. It
Okay.
went 12 a.m. So personally, I don't really enjoy this phase, but yeah. And also the lack of physical contact with people, right? There are times you can't really brainstorm on video calls like this. So there were times when if you want to work on a new pitch or a new idea, when there are people around you, it's easier. You can just explain things or you can get things done. And again, when somebody new joins, we had a couple of new joinees and they had a tough time dealing with us because it was not possible to help them or handhold them. And I think when I go to a new place, that's going to be difficult for me as well, because unless someone shows me or tells me what to do, this is not really helping. So while it is a little hypocritical to say, while we are in the digital space and everything is going digital, working, unless you have somebody next to you and you have a team, you see new faces, you see your people, it is not really fun.
Now, moving on to something a little bit more technical, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, to what extent would you say that programmatic media sort of comes into the picture for a brand like, or for the multiple brands that you were handling earlier? And, how is it that basically leveraging audience buying versus typically just praying and spraying helped your brands in the last couple of years?
Okay, so personally, I'm a big fan of programmatic buy. So I believe that chasing the audience and not a particular publisher or a site is much better, because you want to talk to the person irrespective of where he is, albeit it better be contextual. So that it is more economical and it makes more sense, because you don't know where he's going to be when your campaign is on. So might as well be chase the guy you want to talk to and reach out to him wherever he is. And if you could just make it contextual, it's more, because I like things that are customized. So if I'm reading a particular content and if something is very related to that, and if a brand is trying to talk to me in the same language, I would want to engage with that brand, because I feel they understand me as an audience. So I would expect to do the same for the audiences as well. So yes, it
So
is much better than
works for the audience, works for the
yes, brand.
brand as well. The marketing fraternity almost unanimously agrees that content is king today, right?
Right.
And any instance that comes to your mind, at least top of the mind, where you've seen this really work for you?
Yeah. So one of my clients back then was an OTT platform, and they had launched a show in October last year. And trust me, though the show is amazing and it still tops the charts on IMDb, from a performance campaign, when we are doing subscription-led campaigns, the creatives of that show still is the one that gives me highest subscription at lowest cost. So even though it has lived its life, a shelf life of over 7 months, people still want to subscribe to that platform only to watch this show. So yes, it is important that we show the people what they like. So content does play a major role, and thanks to the creatives of this show, my overall cost for subscription is very low, and it's easier for me to acquire my audiences.
That was obviously from an entertainment standpoint.
Yeah.
So that was an OTT player, so obviously that's their business.
Yeah.
But can you give me like a non-conventional example where you've seen this work? So for instance, you said that a QSR brand, right, was also a client. Now, has content really exceptionally changed the way that they were getting orders, or not really?
No, because that is a sector which is more impulsive. So you don't really decide that you want to consume a certain product, like you want to eat something like 1 week in advance. So it doesn't really matter. It is, at that moment, what you see is what you want to do. So while yes, indirectly it is content, because unless your offer is exciting or your product, the way you've shown your products is not exciting, you wouldn't want to, order that. So indirectly, yes, but.
So according to recent statistics, more than 85% of all money spent on digital advertising are obviously across just two platforms. So it's the big between Google and Facebook.
Correct.
Your point on this whole thing, right? So this huge disparity, do you think that it's ever going to change? And changing, eventually.
Yes, it is. But like I said, a lot of our brands are still very skeptical about having digital as their first mode of communication or media. So they're still TV first. So these are platforms that they are getting comfortable with, because again, social media and search is what Google is intent based. So people think that if they are searching for it, they better be there. So hence that. And Facebook and the family of apps there, because it's social. So people think social is more for engagement, and people are talking to you. It's a two-way communication on social media platform. So hence, while it is changing, yes, people are experimenting, say going the programmatic way or the other publisher ways that they are. But yes, even now, big brands like the OTT brand I was talking about still invest about 80% of their budget on YouTube and Facebook only. So, in spite of having so many other options, they are still comfortable spending money on these platforms.
What do you think change this whole behavior and this approach towards advertising? I mean, is it going to be another bigger player that has to come in to change this duopoly, or do you think that publishers in this case need to really innovate to be able to break this whole rut?
See, publishers are innovating. There are amazing stuff you can do with other people, like your ads can change and things like that. But it's the user or the audience that is still there. So people, if the largest chunk of audience is still available on these platforms, and if they are still consuming content here, then it might makes more sense to reach out to them there. So
Got
unless and until the user doesn't move out and experiment with other platforms, then I don't think the brand would want to chase a smaller chunk of.
Moving on to micro influencers. Now, this is obviously
Yes.
debatable,
Yep.
and a lot of people have been talking about micro influencers lately, and obviously, you must have had the opportunity of sort of working with them on
Yeah.
multiple platforms and campaigns. But do they really make sense? Do they impact the bottom funnel, in the purchase journey? Are they able to sort of convert a user from just being a viewer or a reader to a consumer eventually?
Yes and no both. For
Okay.
certain brands like say beauty products or which are more consumer durables or something, unless someone tells us, somebody who has used it firsthand, if they talk about it, chances of a user wanting to buy that or try that is higher rather than a celebrity endorsement, because we know that celebrities endorse a brand because they're getting paid to do so. But if someone like a micro influencer does that, we believe that they might have used it and they're real people talking about it. So yes, in certain cases it does help in helping to increase the bottom funnel, but otherwise for bigger brands it doesn't really add value. So for smaller brands who don't have much marketing budgets to blow up, they can try use this, which would help.
Coming to the next question, we'd love to know if you sort of follow any Indian brands on social media personally, and what is it about their communication or their approach that makes them stand out? What is it that they're doing right for you to be following them?
Okay, so I do follow a lot of them, but honestly, I don't really remember the names and I can't really distinguish.
Research purposes. Apart from
Huh?
research purposes.
No, so the thing is, okay, so I follow them because of quirky content. So it's not a brand, maybe because it's social media, I can talk about the Mumbai Police
Okay.
Instagram and Twitter handle.
Okay.
Yeah, why do we follow them? Not to get traffic updates, but for the quirk. Right, because it's fun. They're a serious brand. They are a brand, of course. They are serious in nature because their job is to catch criminals and whatever. But when they do relatable stuff like "May the Fourth be with you" and things like that, or even serious issues like lockdown and restrictions, if they talk to you in a language that you would understand, like a friend's reunion and things like that, which is very our age or people who the younger generation would like. So that is fun. So yes, for a serious brand like a police department of a city, talking to its audiences in a language that they would understand, that's fun to follow. So yeah, I follow them for the quirk basically. Otherwise, for other brands, of course, offers, because we're all not, we are all
Retail.
spendthrifts like that. Yes, we need everything for free. And anybody who gives free stuff, then why not? So yeah.
Coming to a more difficult question for you, because obviously you had the opportunity to work with so many brands. Okay? So,
Yeah.
what was one game-changing or path-defining integrated campaign that you've been a part of? And tell us what impacted you the most about that campaign.
Okay, so this is one of my favorite campaigns which I have done in 2017-18.
Okay.
So it was for a what do you call it, pharma brand, and they were coming up with a product for boosting kids' immunities. Okay, so it was like a tablet, not a tablet, it's a chocolate kind of a thing which helped in boost kids' immunities. Now, a product like that was never available in the market or in India at all. And for a pharma brand of that stature to come up with something like this was a bit challenging for them as well. Now, the TGA, of course, here was mothers, because mothers are the ones who are most excited about their kids' growth and all of those. But they're also very scared to try any new product out of the shelf to give their children. So we had a social plus influencer-led plus a media-led campaign called Yes Mom, which we did, and how we used social experiment as our ad films. So we had live social experiments done with real parents and real kids, and those films were then converted into ad films which were promoted across social. And then we had like a pledge taking thing on our landing page where we created, we asked moms to take a pledge of how they would be a yes mom and not no mom. And then we had a culmination event also where we had mom bloggers, pediatricians, and food bloggers, everybody, along with one of the celebrity moms to inaugurate the product and talk about it. So it was not very media led, it was media led plus social experiment. There was influencers, micro, macro, all of those, celeb moms, and everything. So it was a total 3 to 4 month long campaign, which then we had it in phases. So we had conversations created around it, we had pledges, and then eventually sale of those products via e-commerce sites. So this was fun because it was a product which was never there in the market. It was a new product, so we had to create a need for it, and how we did it, and then how we used multiple media channels. And it was fully digital. There was no traditional angle to it at all. So no print, no radio, no TV, nothing. But it still did succeed. So yeah, so that is one of my favorite works that I've done so far.
Last question, but it's important.
So, more.
Few words of advice for upcoming marketers and advertisers, and 2 or 3 trends that you think may be important for someone who's new to this space.
Okay, so few words of advice is think about the consumer first. Like, see what, if you were to be exposed to an advertisement, would you click on it? Would you buy the product? Would you believe in what the ad is saying? So, think about the audience first. Be on a platform that you as a consumer would prefer to be on. And there you have it. If you can think like the audience, then most of your job is done. And a few trends that I think would, are catching up is, of course, the 3 V's that are here. Of course, not you, but voice, vernacular, and video. Everything, we're all becoming lazy, so we all want to talk to things. So Alexa, do this, Alexa, do that. So voice searches and voice related stuff is increasing. And of course, vernacular, because we want to reach out to more people who are, in the interiors of our country, and we being not just India but Bharat. So we need to have more vernacular approaches so that go local thing happens. And of course, video, because we don't have the time to read, or people have no attention to read stuff. So we want everything that is crisp and quick. So just get done with stuff. Tell me in 10 seconds why I should buy your product, and that's it. So vernacular, voice, and video is what we should look out at.